Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2, and 3 as well. Alright, well, hey there. I'm just running through some tests here. Going to do some live recording. Shouldn't take too long here. Hopefully not. We'll see how far we can get with this one. So, 1 second here. And we will get started. Hopefully the audio and video is coming in okay. Seems to be alright. Let's play some of this while I'm getting set up here.
All the stuff that he was actually researching. It's possible, hypothetically, it's possible that he may have invited something in that he shouldn't have, or somebody had given him something, the tools, that the keys to open up doors, knowing that he shouldn't have. That's why I stay away from a lot of that stuff. I know a lot of people research it. I know a lot of Christians that they'll actually research all of that stuff. I can't do it. I can't, and I won't. I stay away from it.
Well, the thing with it is, demonology is just, it's bizarre. Like, there's so much into it. What David was researching, though, wasn't essentially demonology, though. It's actually, I would argue, far worse. So, this is where you start going down the rabbit hole. I'll try and sum it up as simple as I can. It's weird. You guys have heard of H.P. Lovecraft, right?
No.
Okay, so you've heard of Cthulhu?
From South Park.
Okay, fair enough. So Cthulhu is like this. It doesn't make sense. It's like half dragon, half human, half octopus, or something like this. Really weird. It doesn't make any sense. But he's what you would call part of this group of elder gods, right? Now that's in the H.P. Lovecraft universe, right? Now the thing is,
hey everyone.
Look at these older ancient
1,
gods,
5,
right? From all these ancient civilizations, things like this. You start seeing these strange similarities to some of these gods. Human sacrifice is always at the top of the list. You'll always see it. You can go back even to caveman days. I did an episode on Twitch about that a while ago. I never uploaded it to YouTube, so do apologize for that. But I did actually do a Twitch stream on it, where I was exploring kind of like the early stages of man, some of the things that were kind of going on, and comparing it to like the Bible timeline. Bizarre, because it adds up. That's really weird for it. It's like parallel. So there's something there. But when it comes down to it, like Neanderthals, they were the ones that they would worship. And they would worship all sorts of things, like how native tribes throughout America, throughout the Americas, all this, that they would worship like the.
Whoops. I just killed that. Okay, so let's see here. Start this one. Oh, I see. That's why. Okay, let me maneuver this. Welcome everyone. Just kind of running through some tests here. Hey Sophia, how are you? Long time no chat. I'm working on the next video, the short videos of the David Crowley story series. So we have come to the bodies at this point. So that should be fun to kind of go over. So I'm just going to do some live recording here, and obviously it's an open forum chat as well, so feel free. I'm trying to think of what to include, what not to include. How do you keep this video short, under 10 minutes at the maximum, right? Every video of the David Crowley story series I've done so far have been really short, so I have no idea how to really keep this one short, because when you talk about the bodies, it's like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about finding the bodies? Are we talking about the body placement? Are we talking about the condition of the bodies? So there's so much to it. I'm really struggling. So I figured, well, you know what? I'm just gonna record a bunch of stuff, and then obviously what I'm using here, there'll be music added later on, and then edit it down. So you may hear, some things maybe we're not meant to hear. But it's a 3-day weekend, and I finally have Monday off. It's so nice to have a Monday off, a real Monday off, President's Day, honoring some of our greatest presidents, obviously, and ignoring some of the worst presidents that we've had here. So, yeah, thank you, Sophia. Yeah, we're doing well. It's just another beautiful day here, and the sun is out, blinding me, just blinding me. Um, and of course, getting ready for Kriprik's. His radio show will be on later tonight. Actually, let me just see if I can do a screen share for people that don't know where to go and find his radio show here. I will enlighten you if not. So if you go to freedomslips.com, oops, gotta spell it right. Every Monday night, if you go to freedomslips.com, this is Revolution Radio, pretty much the same thing. If you want it, they have their own live chat. You can join that. But all you need to do is just go down. He's in Studio A tonight, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. So hopefully in the future, Rick is going to actually be able to take some calls and things like that, which I think will be fun. We can have a lot of fun with that, right, Sophia? We can have a lot of fun with that. The live call-in show, that would be fun. Hey, Jamie, what's going on? Jamie Michelle, hello to you too. Thank you for joining me here on this late notice Monday. But again, I just got some recordings that I need to do. I have to do it on YouTube, and I thought, well, why not open up the line and we'll do it live. But yeah, if anybody wants to check out Kriprik's show, I don't know what his topic is tonight, but you can get they have a ton of different shows on there, and a ton of different hosts. So anyways, if you love old school radio, if you love that, you may love tuning into freedomslips.com. You can see what type of shows and what type of people that they have. They have the schedule up here, and this is where Rick is on. Rick is also on in Studio B on Saturday. So anyways, if you're into the old school radio, you're looking for something to listen to, some alternative media, if you want to support your alternative media, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, great way to support old school radio. And you can download all of their shows too after they're done. You see they have a lot of open slots. Man, I'd love to take one of these open slots if I could. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, so go ahead and check that out. The Decompression Hour with Kriparik right there. That's on Saturday at 7 p.m. This is all Eastern time, so you have to adjust your times to it. But what we're here today to do is I'm going to do some live reading, so you'll get kind of a... If you have any questions, if you have anything that you want to chat about too while we're here, please feel free. Can you email me a link to Rick's show so I won't miss it, please? Yeah, I can do that. If it's what is it? What did I say? Freedomslips.com. But yes, I don't know if they have like a reminder or something like that you can tune into or something, so you kind of get like a notification. But I think you're on Eastern time there, so it's for you it's 6. For me it's 3 p.m. Yeah, I can try to send you a link here to freedomslips.com. It's pretty interesting stuff. We know our friend Eric Spitfire Wilkinson was on there, and I've been on his show, and the archives, his shows are still in those archives in there too. But definitely check it out. I think it's worth listening to, and hopefully we'll be able to get some David Crowley content up there the more that we can. Oh, speaking of that, also Ellie and I, if you know Ellie79 from YouTube, she's got a great YouTube channel too. I think she was also another person who had their YouTube channel taken down, and so she is definitely here in my subscription somewhere. Ellie78. I always say Ellie79. I don't know why. Ellie78. So we're going to do an interview. I don't know if it's going to be live, but we're going to do it next weekend, and we're going to go over the David Crowley case. So we're going to start from the very top, acting like people have never heard of it. So if anyone in the chat room has any suggestions as to what we should make sure to include, how do you pitch the David Crowley story to people, and how do you do it well, and to get them curious about it, right? Without overwhelming them, without giving them too much. You don't want to give them too much, but at the same time, you don't want to give them too little. So that's what Ellie and I will be working on, and I think that'll be a nice, fun project. And again, today I'm just gonna do some live recording, reading from my book. I'll take the stuff from my book, what I can, and then try to splice it up. I don't know, this one, I really wanted to keep these David Crowley story videos short, and I don't know if that's really going to happen. But depending on if we go live on Ellie's channel, I'll try to jump in here to let people know, because a lot of people are still not getting the notifications for this channel, for my channel, but that's okay. We're not going to let that stop us. We're going to keep moving on and keep pushing on. I also have a Bohemian Club channel, so if anyone is curious about the Bohemian Club, if you want to know more about that, I have the Bohemian Club Questions channel that I just started moving all the content, all the Bohemian Club content that I have, getting ready for Bohemian Grove 2022. So that will be in July, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm moving everything onto this channel, so anything Bohemian Club related, Bohemian Grove related, will be on this channel, which did bring up an interesting question when we think about inside of David Crowley's home. There was the Bohemian Grove owl was actually there. It was inside of there, so that was there's also that tie. It's crazy, all these different ties, but there is a tie in between David Crowley and the Bohemian Club. His extent on the knowledge, what he thought about the Bohemian Club, we can all guess on that. We know that if you've read on my website, thegraystage.wordpress.com, if you've read David Crowley's script, and I think I have a whole article here for David Gray State scripts here, and you can kind of look at 1, and then the 2, and then the 3. So we have 3 different ones here, but the one that is dated June 2nd, 2013, that is the one that does have the Bohemian Grove in it, and it is a centerpiece. Actually, I feel like it's a big centerpiece to the villains of this story here. And then, of course, in the one that is dated May 12, 2014, it's the Bohemian Grove, the Bohemian Club, all that is completely taken out. So it's pretty interesting stuff. But there is a replica of the Bohemian Grove owl in David Crowley's house. So there's your little tie-in there. So let's get back on point, and I want to say hi to everybody in the chat room. Thank you all for joining me here, and I'm gonna just do some live reading, and hopefully it won't be too annoying or too boring, because we have a lot to kind of cover here when it comes to these bodies. So I'm gonna start on page 6 of my book, The Gray Stage, and get some of those readings done. What I found is doing the recordings, the way that I'm doing it in this session is the best way for the audio, so I can keep a good clear audio. For some reason, when I record to YouTube, then put it back onto my software and then edit it, chop it up, put it onto Anchor to get the background, and then edit, chop it up. This seems to work the best way, so the audio stays as best as it can be. So let's go back to my channel here. In case you want to get caught up on some of the episodes that I've done on the YouTube channel, which you're on right now, there is the David Crowley story. And this is basically all of the videos that I've done so far. And you can see some of them are really short, but the longest one is 10 minutes, 31 seconds. And these are just short videos that hopefully we can use to kind of help people who have never heard about the case, or who want to get caught up, or if you just need like a refresher on a certain thing, on the gun, on the bullets, some things like that. They weren't, I think, I did start a TikTok channel too. I don't know if anyone here has been on TikTok. I really don't go on there, but the numbers on the TikTok channel for the videos that I put up there on the Gray Stage or the David Crowley Questions TikTok channel are actually really good. So the shadow banning that is happening here on YouTube is not really happening on the TikTok channel, which is interesting. But I've had to edit. I've had to chop down a lot of these things because TikTok only allows you to do three minutes. So, and you can't have audio in it, is what I found. Only one video I was able to have audio, or else they do this audio check and you can stream it, you can play it on TikTok, but you won't be able to hear it. So, anyways, still learning about that, but so far we have covered a lot of things, and these are if anyone has any suggestions about what to cover next, I'm kind of running out of ideas here. So I figured, well, the body is probably the big one that we haven't really talked about here. I mean, the gun, the bullets, the gunshots, those were like the three main ones. If I could only do three, it would have been those. The three writings are very important to the recliner, but it's really about finding things that you can condense down into short video versions. And with that, while we have time, let's go to some live reading here. And again, hopefully this won't bore you, but I have to do this anyway, so might as well make it live, right? Why not? Just for fun. Okay, so let's get to this here. Yep, let's get right directly to this. Jamie says, good for you on TikTok. I'll have to look it up. Thank you for that. Yeah, I don't really understand TikTok, but I don't know. It's like a video version of Twitter or something. That's kind of the gist I get. But 3 minutes, man, I can't do anything in 3 minutes. But I could not even drink a bottle of wine in 3 minutes, by the way. So here we go. So this is from page 6. This is from the Finding the Bodies chapter. We'll do a little live reading here. Okay, so Officer Tara Becker recorded audio statements from both Colin and Judy Prochnow. According to one of Officer Becker's supplemental reports, Colin looked through the front window and observed what he thought to be dummies. Colin stated that he now knows that they were the bodies of the deceased, but initially he thought that they were dummies or some type of props that were left in the residence to appear as though they were home when they weren't. That one has always stuck with me, so I'll read that one more time. According to one of Officer Becker's supplemental reports, Colin looked through the front window and observed what he thought to be dummies. Colin stated that he now knows that they were bodies of the deceased, but initially he thought that they were dummies or some type of props that were left in the residence to appear as though they were home when they weren't. Whew, that's a mouthful. So, that I think is a good thing to include. Mr. Prochnow then returned home and explained what he saw to his wife. Colin saw what he wanted to be mannequins, Judy Prochnow told me on March 24, 2017, and the reason he said mannequins is because of the condition the bodies were in, without heads and things like that. You just don't expect to see headless bodies anyway. Judy also explained to me what she saw when she looked through the front window. Judy also explained to me what she saw when she looked through the front window. I saw David lying on the floor, away from Camille and the baby. I thought it was a mannequin at first, too, and then I realized it wasn't. I couldn't figure out what was wrong until I noticed that there was a spine with a small piece of skull attached. I looked by the couch, Judy continued. I heard it pop. I looked by the couch, Judy continued. I looked by the couch, Judy continued, and I saw a big bundle of things. I thought at first it was a big butt, and then I saw a little hand. Then I realized that they were all dead, and it was our neighbors. Judy was certain the three bodies were David, Camille, and Rania before she contacted authorities. Mrs. Prochnow then went home and dialed 911. So, I don't know. I mean, don't really need a lot of the phone call, but then should I include things that are in the phone call where she's talking about the bodies. So I don't know. This could all just be a big cluster here, just a big waste of time, but it just looks like there's a pile of bodies, Judy explained to the dispatcher, and one like the head is eaten off. I suppose by the dog, and I just I gotta do that again. I suppose by the dog, Judy continued, and my husband thought they were dummies, but the hands look real, and they would have been there since before Christmas. I suppose by the dog. Yeah, it looks like the head was eaten off. Looks like one of the head is eaten. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so I guess make a note to mention that Colin Prochnow is the first person to see the bodies, right? So it's really more about, I want to hear more about what he saw. So let's go to there. Colin Prochnow then called 911 and asked if police could do a welfare check at 1051 Ramsdale Drive. I looked through the front window, Colin relayed to the dispatcher, and there's like 3 dummies on the floor. I don't think there are any bodies, but it just looks like there's a gun next to one. A handgun? Colin stated he and his wife were okay, we don't need that. So that's pretty interesting. I looked through the front window, Colin relayed to the dispatcher, and there's like 3 dummies on the floor. And I don't think there are any bodies, but it just looks like there's a gun next to one. A handgun? Let's see. Judy tells her not to look more. You saw the gun. So there's the mannequin thing. There's the gun thing. I'm sure we can do something with that. But yeah, I don't know. It's good to just record this because I can always chop it up and edit it. May not even use any of this. I don't know. But this is a great way for me to just kind of work out what should be included in the bodies in this chapter. This would be David Crowley number 6. So far, I'm not really sure if I like any of this to be included in it. But I guess you have to, right? Or do we just go to what the police see? But it seems like what Colin and what Judy see is relevant. This is the only thing relevant about Judy Prochnow in this whole case, and Colin Prochnow too, is what they see through that front door. Aside from that, I could care less about anything that they've said or claimed or have anything else to do with any of this stuff here. Even if they agreed that David Crowley didn't do it, their relevance pretty much ends there. At that point, they're just about as relevant as anybody else. So here's a quote from Colin Prochnow. I saw one body that was probably, maybe 6 to 8 feet away from the window, and then I noticed that there was another body maybe 6 to 7 feet away from the first one. And I noticed that there was a little body that looked like it was almost in the second body's arms. So that's pretty interesting, right? One body that was almost in the second body's arms. So that's kind of a cluster too, everything that they're saying there. So then we jump to the first responders chapter here, and this will start on page 13. Let's see. At 1:04 p.m. on January 17, 2015, Apple Valley Police Sergeant Greg Dahlstrom arrived at the crime scene. There he saw Colin Prochnow standing in Lorraine Tuppy's driveway. Mr. Prochnow approached the officer, stating that there were 3 bodies in the living room of the Crowley home. Mr. Prochnow approached the officer, stating there were 3 bodies in the living room of the Crowley home. Sergeant Dahlstrom then approached the front window and looked inside the residence. I noticed several obviously dead bodies lying on the floor near the front picture window, Sergeant Dahlstrom wrote in his supplemental report. I noticed a black handgun on the floor as well. Lastly, I noticed a medium-sized dog barking and running among the bodies. I advised dispatch of my findings, Sergeant Dahlstrom continued, and requested the channel be restricted to emergency traffic. Officer Tara Becker was a second responder to arrive at the crime scene. Sergeant Dahlstrom advised me that there were in fact 3 deceased parties that could be seen from the large picture window at the front of the residence. Sergeant Dahlstrom advised me that there were in fact 3 deceased parties that could be seen from the large picture window at the front of the residence. Officer Becker did not report seeing the bodies in any of her supplemental reports we received. I think that was a pretty big point too. She doesn't see, Officer Tara Becker doesn't see any of these bodies. In the reports, right? She may have seen it somewhere, but there's nothing in the reports that would indicate to us that Officer Tara Becker ever saw these 3 bodies. It's very important to know who did see the 3 bodies and who did not see these 3 bodies. I think that is a big, big deal. I don't know what all of your thoughts are on that. So you notice we take a lot, I take a lot of time to kind of read through it, reread through it. Similar to when you make music, when you make songs, you want to get a couple different takes, so if you need to splice things up, you can always do that. So I know this is not a regular show that we're hearing. This is just a live kind of thing, but it could be very tedious. And again, I do appreciate everybody for watching. I really appreciate everyone watching, because I know you don't have to. I know there's other things that you could be doing, but if you want to get a good sneak preview of what the next episode of the David Crowley story will be, here it is. I tried to put this up on YouTube when I had so far, like the pitch, right? It's like 50 minutes. If I could pitch anything about David Crowley, this is what I would want to say, and YouTube would not let me put that up for some reason, so I was a little disappointed in that, but that's okay. And again, if you haven't read the book, if you would like to read the book, just go to thegraystage.wordpress.com. You can download it free right now. The company that I use, lulu.com, they're making some changes, so they're going to raise the price, unfortunately, of the physical copy. I'm hoping to get back into doing some trade shows where I can start going back to some trade shows and to let people know about this particular case here. I think it's a case that everybody can relate to at some point. Everyone has someone that they know who has served this country, that they respect who has served this country. Has family in movies, or family who everyone watches movies, right? So there's a lot of things about this case that are highly relatable. Children, fathers, mothers. It's all right here, and just the strange things, like, how do you pitch this? I keep going back, like, I've been doing this for 6 years, 7 years. Like, how do you pitch this to somebody who has never heard about this case? I'm always fascinated to hear what all of your thoughts are about that. So if you're watching this now, or if you're if you're commenting, watching this later on, give me some tips, give me some advice, give me some help. Like, what would you do? What would you include to pitch this? You got 2-3 minutes to pitch this to somebody. What do you tell them without overwhelming them or anything? It's pretty interesting. Okay, so that's Officer Becker, who did not see. I wanted to make sure that part almost did not make it into the book, but it was very important to keep that part in the book, to note that there is nowhere that indicates Tara Becker saw the bodies, and who really did see it. There is a list of who went in, what day, what time, and there's a lot of stuff that this book did not cover, that needs to be covered, that needs to be in book form, a lot. Okay. Officer John Broughton arrived third. While all 3 officers were standing on the west side of the house, they could smell the odor of decaying bodies. Officer Broughton was the first officer to check the back of the house. I was instructed to check the rear of the residence for any signs of forced entry, Broughton documented. The backyard is fenced in with a chain-link fence, and the gates were closed but not locked. Officer Broughton Officer Broughton entered the backyard and saw fresh animal tracks in the snow. Signs of forced entry were not found on any backyard windows. Signs of forced entry were not found on any backyard windows. One more. Signs of forced entry were not found on any backyard windows, but there was an open door. The rear sliding patio door was found open slightly 1/4 inch, wrote Broughton. I opened the door and found that it was not locked or secured with the bar lock. Paleo continued to bark as Broughton opened the rear slider. When I opened the patio door, there was an overpowering odor of decaying flesh. One light was on in the dining room, Broughton continued. The Christmas tree lights and other strings of Christmas tree lights were still on. After walking around the back of the house, Officer Broughton looked through the front window and saw 3 bodies on the living room floor. They were all badly decomposed, Broughton wrote in his report. One adult body was laying on its back with a black semi-auto pistol nearby. The second adult body appeared to be laying on its stomach and/or side. Between 2 adult bodies was the body of a small child. Between 2 adult bodies was the body of a small child. Interesting. Dog was scared upon arrival, but appeared to be friendly, wrote CSO Brian Booth. I was able to catch the dog with a choke pull and get it into the bed of my truck, where it stayed until roughly 1900 hours. CSO Booth then took Paleo to Palomino Pet Hospital and advised the kennel to only feed and water the dog, but not to do anything else with it, since it was part of an investigation. Next, Sergeant Dahlstrom and Sergeant Keeler entered the home through the rear slider. Sergeant Dahlstrom and Sergeant Keeler entered the house through the rear slider. Prior to entering the house, wrote Sergeant Keeler, I announced officers' presence. There was no response. The 2 officers cleared the garage first, then the main level, ending with the basement. I noted the writing on the living room wall, wrote Keeler, which appeared to say Allahu Akbar. It appeared to be written in blood with fingerprints. Sergeant Dahlstrom also noticed the blood writing on the living room wall. I noticed letters on the wall that appeared to be written in blood. Dahlstrom also reported seeing several bloody footprints on the floor in the area between the kitchen and the living room. Below the wall on the living room floor lay 3 heavily decomposed bodies, 2 adults and 1 child. The reason I put heavily decomposed bodies is because that's what they were claiming. Could be different, obviously, kind of what I think is different now after seeing some of the stuff that Catherine has been talking about mold. And when her and William did that show, I thought it was really good. They covered the whole mold thing. Jamie says, I still find it hard to believe that no neighbors had any security cameras. Yeah, good point there. I mean, I think we had kind of assumed, I don't know, 2014, was that a big thing back then? Was the doorbell, door cams or ring cams, all that stuff? How big was it back then? How accessible was it? But they may have, but what we know for sure is no neighbors seem to have been asked about it. If they had any cameras or anything that may have shown this, but because it all happened inside of the house, from what the police say, maybe there was no reason for them to ask. But had they have asked, and had there been some security cameras, maybe they would have found some strange goings on, coming inside of the house, leaving the house, who was there, who really was there, what date were these people who say they were there, what date were they really there. It may have really helped put some of those things to rest, especially when you have David's brother, who first said that in the early news reports reported that David Crowley's brother said that he was there on the 26th or the 27th, but he wasn't sure. But in the police reports, it's very clear. He tells the police he was there on December 28th. So having a security camera, something like that, Jamie, I think you're totally right. That would put to rest all that, you would see him going up there, putting the presents down on the 28th, and then leaving. Right? That seems like a very fair question. Um, we can follow up on some of that, I think. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Great point, though, Jamie. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I don't know. A lot of stuff that I'm recording with my voice, I don't know if I'm going to keep it all in. Like, the blood wall. Is the blood wall really relevant to the bodies? It is, I guess, because of where the blood, they say, where the blood came from. It's supposed to have come from Kamel. But, again, it's like, what are we talking? Are we talking about finding the bodies when they, I mean, should this be broken up into 3 different shows? Maybe one just shows finding the bodies, everything that people see before anyone enters the house. I don't know. I really don't know. But I know if I don't record this stuff and figure that out, I'm just going to keep thinking about it and thinking about it. It's better to record it, hear how it sounds, and then go from there, I guess, right? I could think all day long, but that's not going to get anything done here. So, let's see. And the thing about the Christmas light, even about the dog, like, is that really relevant to them, to the bodies, to the body placement? I don't know. And if I were to do something on the dog here, if anyone has any suggestions or any thoughts, any feedback, what do you do with the dog? Like, what do you include? What do you not include? Anyways, I'm just thinking out loud here. So, let's see. 2 officers enter the home. It's Allahu Akbar. 3 dead bodies. Okay. And so these, when the police reports were written, which was like maybe a day or so later, but obviously at this time, so I'm going to keep reading on. This is page 15 of the book, First Responders chapter, at least in the original book, the one that has some typos in it, which you may not be able to find now. Although the photos came out better in the first copy, which I'm very upset about, because now I have to do a 3rd copy to make sure that when I do a worldwide distribution, that the photos come out okay. So that's what's one of the things that's slowing down the worldwide distribution, is because, you know, I got 3 other books that I'm working on. A lot of things just happening with the family and everything, so it's taken me time. So these short videos were supposed to be something that I could continue to do to make sure we have some new content out there, and it's just it's been a little more challenging than I thought, but that's okay. I'd rather do it right. I'd rather take more time and do it right than kind of rush it, which I felt like I did. You know, the content of some of the first David Crowley story videos I think were good, but man, if I could go back and redo some of the audio, especially for the first ones, I'd be really happy with that. The only audio that I like, I think, is the gunshot one, and that's the one that I'm recording that. I'm recording this the way that I recorded that, so hopefully it'll come out right. Anyways, just venting a little bit. Happy President's Day, everybody. I know in 2012 we wanted Ron Paul, and it didn't happen. That's okay. President cannot solve everything. Let's continue on here. Alright, so at this time, Broughton reported, the bodies are presumed to be that of the homeowners, David Timothy Crowley, and At this time, Broughton reported, the bodies are presumed to be that of the homeowners David Timothy Crowley, Kamel Rasul Crowley, and their daughter, Rania Crowley. With all 3 levels cleared, the officers left the house and waited for detectives to arrive. So that really has nothing to do with the bodies either. So that's what makes it so hard. But it's better to record more, and then, you know, I can always take these things out later. So let's see. If there's anything else, it's the body placement is really, when I started this, it's really what I wanted. It's like, where were the bodies placed? So, and you can show the things, but let's see. That may be it. That may be all I need, or all I have here. No, because there's still more. I want to note where they say, because the early reports were saying that the heads were, missing. A lot of the body parts, things like that, were quote unquote missing. So we haven't even gotten there yet. Okay, so maybe we start here on page 20 when the BCA and the detectives enter the home. Maybe we go there. We'll kind of go through who entered this home and what happened. That may be good. That may be good to go through here. Let's see. Once the BCA crime scene team arrived, the following authorities examined the residence together: Detective Tommy Booth, Detective Brian Bone, BCA Special Agent Chris Olson, BCA Crime Scene Specialist Joe Cooksley, and BCA Crime Scene Specialist Beth Wolf. This is why I take it slow with each thing, with each sentence, with each name. It makes it easier to chop it up to edit it later. Detective Tommy Booth, Detective Brian Bone, BCA Special Agent Chris Olson, BCA Crime Scene Specialist Joe Cooksley, and BCA Crime Scene Specialist Beth Wolf. As we approached the house, Detective Brian Bone reported, I could smell a strong odor, which from my training and experience is known to be from decomposing bodies. That's an interesting thing. So the smell, I don't know if we've talked too much about that, Sophia, about the smell of the bodies and how that would incorporate with all of this here. That's pretty interesting. That just got me thinking. Okay. As we approached the house, Detective Brian Bone reported, I could smell a strong odor, which from my training and experience is known to be from decomposing bodies. BCA Crime Scene Specialist Joe Cooksley led the group through the rear slider. As the investigators entered the house, Detective Brian Bone began to take photographs of the crime scene. On the west wall in the living room, Detective Tommy Booth reported, was Allahu Akbar, which appeared to be written with someone's fingers covered in what appeared to be blood. Once inside, Detective Booth immediately noticed dog feces all over the floors. Booth also noted the front door was secure and there were no signs of forced entry. The front door and all windows were locked, Joe Cooksley echoed in his detailed report, except for a kitchen window with an intact screen and no sign of forced entry. The thermostat was set to hold at 68 degrees. It was observed that the heat was on, Cooksley stated upon entry. The Christmas tree lights were on, and a single bulb from a chandelier in the rear entry was on. Investigators walked past the open laptop on the kitchen island into the living room where they found 3 deceased bodies. I noted that 2 of the bodies were missing their heads. Detective Brian Bone. I noted that 2 of the bodies were missing their heads, wrote Detective Brian Bone. It appeared that the 2 adult-sized bodies did not appear to have heads or skulls attached to them. It appeared as though the dog had fed on the heads and hands of both adults. Just the heads and hands of both adults? Not the daughter? Just throw it out there. It appeared that the 2 adult-sized bodies did not appear to have heads or skulls attached to them. It appeared as though the dog had fed on the heads and hands of both adults. Detective Bone wrote, Initially, Detective Bone wrote that David was missing his left hand. Obviously, the detective was mistaken on the next page of the same report. Obviously, the detective was mistaken, since on the next page of the same report he mentioned David's left hand was in place while his right hand was missing. So at first he wrote the left hand was missing, and then obviously he kind of changed that to match that the right hand was missing. Strong odor also from dog feces, and you're interesting. Yeah, I don't know what any of the, cause I don't have a dog, so I don't know what the odor. You mix the odor, the smell, any of that, dog feces, decomposing, but I have no idea what that smells like. How long would this strong odor last for? Does it just last until, just keep growing, getting worse and worse and worse? So now it kind of makes me want to learn more about the odor of decomposing bodies. It just, it's not smells like that just don't fade, right? They should get worse and worse over time. So the longer the bodies are there, should the smell get worse and worse and worse? It's an interesting question. Yeah, this is why I like going back through a lot of this stuff, even if we've covered it 100 times. And someone's probably screaming out there, they already know the answer. Yeah, let's go. We'll keep running through this here. Okay, so Bone first wrote David was missing his left hand. Then he realized it was actually his right hand. Okay. David was barefoot and lying on his back. David was barefoot and lying on his back. Most of his head was missing, Detective Bone continued. Only the back part of his skull was still in place, and David's upper spine was also exposed. The male body was lying on his back, Detective Tommy Booth reported, with his body point toward the east and both arms spread outward from the body. He was missing his right hand and had a black semi-auto handgun several inches from his left hand. There was a small portion of his rear skull still attached to the spinal column, but a large portion of the head was missing. His body was also in a later stage of decay. So that's Detective Tommy Booth. Later stage of decay. Interesting. David's arms were fully extended, almost in a crucified position. His right hand was missing, and his right forearm was purple and black. David's mummified left hand was purple with a leathery textured appearance. During the evaluation of the bodies, Joe Cooksley wrote in his report, a hole was observed in the remaining portion of skull attached to David Timothy Crowley's spine. Really? A hole was observed in the remaining portion of skull attached to David Timothy Crowley's spine. Cooksley also noted the hole was in the back of the skull. Only the back portion of his skull remained attached to his spine, Joe Cooksley reported. David's vertebrae was visible from the neck of the shirt. The exposed part of his stomach revealed some purple discoloration. David's bare feet were pointed at the bloody wall. According to Joe Cooksley's report, Crowley's left foot was covered by a blue blanket. His right foot was partially exposed. The right foot also had a leathery appearance and purple discoloration. There was a rip on the left thigh pant leg, and a portion of Kamel's sweater was draped over his lower right leg. There was a rip on the left thigh pant leg, and a portion of Kamel's sweater was draped over his lower right leg. David was wearing 3 shirts, a navy blue undershirt, a white long-sleeve t-shirt, and a gray short-sleeve shirt. and a gray short-sleeved t-shirt. His right sleeve was pushed up, Cooksley continued, and a tattoo was visible on his right forearm. There was another tattoo visible on his left arm as well. So the tattoo kind of being there was also another thing that kind of stuck out because obviously to have, that's a great way to identify who he was, right? It would make it almost instantaneously where they could identify David Crowley based on that stuff. So here's some of the tats and everything that we will definitely cover later, but it's good to have those documentation there to kind of show, to give you kind of a graphic, unfortunately, a very graphic illustration of it. Okay, almost done here because can't really take too much more. And this is all before the autopsies, so I don't know what to include, what not to include in here. But I'm open to any thoughts on this for all of you who are watching this or who have any suggestions about this. But if we're going to cover the bodies, maybe we do it in phases, and we talk about, okay, through the front window, what do people see, right? That's 2 minutes. That's got to be 2 minutes. The first responders, another 2 minutes, right? But the walkthrough with the BCA and the Apple Valley police officers, that's that's a little bit longer. Then you have the autopsies too. So you have all of this there that, I don't know, when you just talk about the bodies, like, that could be 4 separate shows, it feels like. Okay, almost done here. Let's see. So we went through what David was wearing. The adult female's body was pointed west and was in a later stage of decay, Detective Booth reported. So Tommy Booth is saying they're all in a later stage of decay. She was laying chest down on the floor. The head of the female body could not be seen. Also, the female did not have either hand. The head of the female body could not be seen on the initial view. Also, the female did not have either hand. Also, the female did not have either hand. During this walkthrough, Detective Bone could only see one of Kamel's missing hands. The female body appeared to be missing one hand. Where was the other hand? Where did he think the other hand was? Kamel was found on her stomach. With her head pointed towards the bloody wall. According to Joe Cooksley's description, Kamel was found with her left arm under her body, extended towards the right, and her right arm extended over to her left. Cooksley also noted neither hand was visible, because they weren't there. Both of Kamel's hands were missing. Only a portion of her skull appeared to be attached to her spine. So you would think where Kamel's body is, where all of that is, there should be a lot more blood there, right? I mean, if the dog is eating away, let's think about this now. If the dog is eating away at Kamel's head, and Kamel's hands, where she was found, I don't know if I have that. Do I have that here? Where she was found, wouldn't you expect a lot more blood from that dog? I mean, look at here. Hopefully you can see this here. So I can zoom. Oh, no, you can't see it because I have to transition. Sorry. So hit the control and the plus, and that should look at that, maximize that screen there. So where this green X is where Kamel is, and her head is pointed, let's see, her head is pointed west here, right? And this is the wall over here, so her head is going this way. And it's by the couch here, so you would expect a lot of blood in this area, right? In this couch area. But not a lot of blood seen. Any blood there? On the couch? I mean, the dog is eating away at all this. No blood. Very interesting. So, I mean, either way, obviously, to take her blood and put it on that wall, to put it all over the house, whatever's happening there, I think it's very safe to assume that where Kamel's body is found by the investigators is not where she died. If she was placed there, that brings up a whole other series of questions. Even if you want to believe that it was David, why would David place her there, right? It's kind of odd. Jamie says, so I had a thought, if the dogs are not supposed to have chicken bones, could cause death, well, what would be different from a human bone, thinking of their hands missing? Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. A lot of the tests, a lot of things have been done with, other bones, animal bones, but human bones? Like, I mean, how often does that happen? How many cases of that do we have to really show the effects of a dog eating human bones? 2 people, 3 people, all under the age of 30, one under the age of 6. I don't know. But I think that's another great question there. Very great question there. Got me thinking there on that one. Yeah, I mean, we have this little dog. My sister-in-law has this little dog, and can't give him bones. He's a lot smaller, so I don't know, what the difference is, but they can't really give him chicken bones. When we use a pressure cooker, right, we can give him chicken bones, no problem. He's great, no problem. But they do not like to give him chicken bones if they're not in the pressure cooker, basically. So I don't know. That's always been a fascinating thing, especially when you think about how much damage, how much bones and things like that the dog would have been credited with. And again, we've talked about this, but that doesn't include why the dog would be selective on certain things, right? If it's going to eat David's right hand, why not eat David's left hand? Things like that, all right? How did it get to Kamel's, both of her hands, and then stop there, and then move on to Ranya's arm? So I don't know. Valid questions, huh? Okay. Cooksley also reported 2 possible holes were observed in the remaining portion of Kamel Rasul Crowley's skull. Her body was not checked for temperature or stiffness. Skeletalization, possible animal activity, and possible bloating were all mentioned in Cooksley's notes. A bead of liquid was observed on Kamel's lower back and right thigh. Kamel was wearing a black Gray State t-shirt, gray sweatpants, and tan socks. Her sweatpants were ripped at the rear right leg. Kamel was found lying on top of a blue blanket. An early note stated there were blankets above the head area of Kamel. A tattoo was visible on her back. Hey, Jet. Way too many unanswered questions for a resolved case. Yeah, for a thorough investigation, right? I mean, how many times am I going to reread through all this stuff and just, the more I go through it, the more questions. But I think, what I'm finding is these short videos, these 7 videos that I have so far, this would be the 8th, technically, even though the first 2 are not labeled as a part of the David Crowley story. But, yeah, it's just like these are the main things that I, if nothing else, for a reminder for me, like, make sure you focus on these things here. These are the main things here. So obviously the bodies, this is probably why I haven't tackled the body thing yet, is because there's so much to it. How do you condense that into 10 minutes. That's going to be really, really difficult. So, and then how do you break it up to make it into a cohesive story that you really want to tell, to let people know what happened? So these are all the challenges, but I figured I can record it all now, and so I appreciate all of you, all your patience here. I know it's probably not the best way to do this, but I need to record this anyway, and I figured, hey, if you want to listen in, come on in. Listen on in. And so anyways, thank you all for joining me in this chat. I really appreciate that. And like I said, if you have any questions, any comments, make sure drop it in the chat, and I will make sure to go over that too while I'm here on my day off. Nice to have a Monday off. Can't remember the last time I had a Monday off, but can't beat that. Except for Friday. And lots more to come, for sure. Lots of things that I'm looking forward to in the future. Okay, so, the beat of liquid, and remember, this is all, if you read the book, if you hear anything that I say during this or during any of this stuff, and you're like, oh, where's he getting that from? In the book, it's all sourced, so it tells you exactly where this is all sourced. A lot of this is going to be in the BCA notes, and I know it's a big document, lots of big documents here, but a lot of this stuff, is just little nuggets, little things that were found in the BCA 485 and 488, but everything will be sourced. At the very end, you will be able to find what those sources are. And if I transition, then maybe you can see what I'm actually talking about here. So, yeah, so BCA lab. So a lot of this is going to be from the BCA 485 and the BCA 488, and the page numbers should also be included in there too. Well, thank you, Jed. I appreciate that. Jed says I always learn something new or something I missed before, and Jamie says me too. Me too. Me three, I guess. Even though I wrote this stuff and have gone through this stuff, and that just shows how important it is to go over it and to do these things, to make these videos, because not only can they help people who are just getting caught up, they can help us too, and they can be refreshers for us for things, or maybe get our brain thinking of maybe we were focused on some other aspect of the case, and now now we have these new things. So it's always interesting when people ask me, nothing wrong with asking me, that they ask me, is there anything new about the case? And it seems like there's always something new. Sometimes what is old is new too. So that's pretty interesting as well. And so I am going to just play this here just for a few minutes, because I need to go check on something. I will be right back. I do appreciate all of you, and if you need to leave, I totally understand. I appreciate everybody being here. I'm almost done. I need to do a little more recording. I just need to go check on something for a few minutes here, make sure my food is not burning, and while I do that, I'm just going to play one of these videos here. What do we know about David Crowley? David Crowley was accused of a double murder-suicide. He was accused of murdering his wife, his daughter, and then committing suicide. The bodies of David, Kamel, and Rania Crowley were found on January 7th. What do we know about David Crowley? David Crowley was accused of a double murder-suicide. He was accused of murdering his wife, his daughter, and then committing suicide. The bodies of David, Kamel, and Rania Crowley were found on January 17, 2015. Within 24 hours, David Crowley was being accused of a double murder-suicide. Those accusations are baseless. They were baseless then, and they are baseless now. What do we know about David Crowley? What do we know about Kamel Crowley? Kamel and her sister were born on a United States military base in Saudi Arabia. Once her father left his position with the U.S. military, Detective Jim Gummert reported, they returned to live in Pakistan where her mother and father were originally born. The Alam family stayed in Pakistan until Kamel was 17 years old and then moved to Texas. Kamel then met David while attending Baylor University, a private Christian university in Waco, Texas. David grew up in Owatonna, Minnesota. David and Mitch Heil became best friends in 2000 while attending Owatonna High School. In 2004, David and Mitch joined the United States Army together on June 22nd. David's place of entry into active duty is listed as Fort Snelling in Minnesota. According to Mitch Heil, both he and David were sent to Fort Banning in Georgia for Army basic training. After completing basic combat training, David was sent to Germany. David Crowley served in the United States Army for a total of 5 years, 2 months, and 22 days, beginning on January 22, 2004, and ending on September 13, 2009. 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days of service were listed under the Foreign Service section of his Release from Active Duty Form, DD Form 214.
Nice.
David's home of record at the time of entry into service was his dad's home in Owatonna, and he was released from service at Fort Hood Army Base in Texas. According to Mitchell Heil, Detective Tommy Booth reported, David was first deployed to Iraq. David was in Iraq from November 2, 2005 to November 11, 2006. While deployed in Iraq, Detective Booth continued, David had gone through a traumatic incident where an IED had blown up the Humvee that he was in. When the IED had blown up the Humvee, David had to save one of his teammates and lost several members of his team while over in Iraq. Islam is a religion of peace, David wrote in a faith.
Sounds pretty traumatizing. So, anyways, just wanted to cut that in there. This was another tough piece because there was so much here, and all of this is leading up, and it cuts off, right? It's 9 minutes, 26 seconds, and it ends where, right before David begins to make the 2012 trailer, which is Gray State. So this was a challenge, what to include, where to include it, when to stop. So definitely at some point there will be a whole, another small piece just on David Crowley's 2012 trailer. But again, that gets into a whole nother thing. It seems like a lot of people already kind of know about that area. So it all goes back to what to include, what not to include. It's trial, it's error, it's just doing it and doing the best that you possibly can here when talking about these things. So we've only got just a few more things to go through here related to the bodies, and then we'll see. I'll be able to pick apart all of this. And once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I won't keep you too much longer. So let's continue to read. So we got to Kamel. The bead of liquid on her lower back and right thigh I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know what that could be. I don't know. We can tell how detailed some of their notes are and some of the things that they note. So when they're noting a bead of liquid here, right, they should be noting a lot of other things. And it brings into question the things that they missed. We're all human. We can all miss these things, but it's how we respond to it, how we deal with it, that really will make a difference. So I know publicly a lot of the police do not want to admit that they missed 2 bullets on January 17th, but privately is what I would want to hear. When they retire, maybe they'll be more open to it. When they're older, in their 70s, in their 80s, maybe they'll be more open to this. And I can definitely wait. I'm a very patient person. I can definitely wait to that, but I do hope at some point, at some day, they get on record and just admit how much you really messed up in this case. To call it a thorough investigation just seems like you're just kind of going through the motions. You're not really dealing with the reality of the situation because of your superiors, because of your pensions, because of maybe any threats that may have been made towards you or anything like that, or any intimidation, whatever it is. But at some point, I do hope these people will come out and be honest and say, yeah, I mean, we really dropped the ball. We missed 2 bullets here. We missed DNA here. We never followed up on DNA that was in the house. Things like that. So, okay. Let's wrap up here, good people. The child's body appeared to be in a later stage of decay, Detective Booth reported, and was missing her right arm. The head of the child was laying between the legs of the adult female body with her head pointing west. Rania Crowley was lying on her left side, according to Cooksley, with her left arm, according to Cooksley, with her left hand extended out to her front. Rania's entire right arm was missing, with her left hand extended out to her front. Rania's entire right arm was missing. Red, purple, and yellow discoloration was seen on her left arm and torso. Cooksley also noticed a hole behind the child's left ear. Rania was found in a blue top with white polka dots that was pulled up around her neck, exposing her torso. Skin slippage and marbling were both observed on the daughter's torso. Her gray sweatpants were halfway down. Her gray sweatpants were halfway down buttock, but all the way up in front. Like her father, Rania was found barefoot. The mummification process, the mummification of Rania's fingers and toes were mentioned in Joe Cooksley's written notes, along with detached hair. According to reports, there was a great deal of blood and hair debris found in the kitchen, living room, and hallway area. Human hair and dog feces were both found in the basement next to the stairs. Hennepin County Medical Examiner responded earlier, Joe Cooksley wrote in his notes, and have waited until living room area is ready. What are they waiting for? Until the living room area is ready? I mean, they're staging the scene for the Hennepin County Medical Examiners. Why couldn't, if the Hennepin County Medical Examiner were ready, why couldn't they have just gone in when everybody else did? But according to Joe Cooksley, the medical examiner responded earlier and have waited until living room area is ready. Although they had been on standby for several hours, medical examiner medical examiner Dr. Jessica Lelinski and medical examiner investigator Greg Spandau did not enter the Crowley residence until 12 a.m. on January 18th. Detective Brian Bone accompanied Lelinski and Spandau into the house and photographed the bodies. Inside the house, the group observed a hole in what was left of David's skull, a hole behind Rania's left ear, and 2 holes in what remained of Kamel's head. The initial analysis of the possible dates of death, according to medical examiner Jessica Lelinski, is between December 24th
and January 17th, 2015. Whew, we made it. All right, that will do the recordings for now, and the autopsies definitely have to be covered in a separate. There's just way too much. There's already way too much here. I mean, look, I've been recording for a long time, and I'm looking for a couple 10-minute videos. So, thank you all for listening, for watching, for joining. And based on this, I'm sure I have enough for a couple videos that I can make, short videos. And just think about this. I'll leave you with this. And think about when you talk about a movie pitch, right? If you're going to pitch a movie to somebody, you got about 2-3 minutes. Think of this in the same way. If you're going to get somebody interested in this case, and you have 2 minutes, 3 minutes maximum, what do you tell them? What do you include in that pitch? And I'll leave you all with that. God bless you all. Thank you all again for joining me. I appreciate everybody who has left a comment, everyone who has watched this, who have liked this, and who continues to care about this family and wants to get justice for this family. God bless you all.